As far as I'm concerned, music piracy from the late 90s was the actual death of the music industry. In the 2010s, when big tech stepped in and started generating billions off streaming, people thought that it was the return of the music industry. But in actuality, the music industry as we know it today has more in common with The Walking Dead.
Little girl?
V has come too.
My grandfather lived a very rich and colorful life. For a few years, he was a number runner. And for those who do not know what number running is, it was a form of gambling that started in the 1800s up until the 1930s. A number runner collects money from a neighborhood. Anybody can put money in the pot to enter by picking any 3-digit number. These numbers would be tied ahead of time to a specific public event, such as the last 3 digits of that day's stock market closing or the order of horses in a race. If the numbers you bet on matched the day's official numbers, you would win the pot. Now, if we're using today's numbers, let's say 600 of us put $100 in the pot. You could theoretically win $60,000. The US government got wind of this, and you know what they did? They made number running illegal, and then they started the fucking lottery, 'cause of course they would.
Next we have 4 and 32 and 45. And the all-important Mondo Ball number is 21.
Hey, so I am editing the video and I wanted to make sure that I was clear on one particular point here. That being that when the US put the number runners out of business, they basically stole the industry for themselves. One of the parts that I wasn't able to really convey was that, let's say you win at $60,000. Well, really, you're probably only going to get like 50 or 40,000 of it if you're lucky, because the mob was going to take their cut. Like the number runners were going to get a cut out of, all of the out of the pot, out of the winnings. Like the house always wins, and that's pretty much what I'm trying to convey here when it comes to streaming, when it comes to number running. These platforms get their cut first, then the winners, whoever they are, get their cut. So I just wanted to convey that. I wanted to make sure that was clear. Back to the video. So what does this have to do with music streaming? Everything. It has everything to do with music streaming, because the major labels and the artists had a problem back in the 90s. People were not buying the music. Worse, people were stealing it. This directly affected their bottom lines. It took over 10 years, along with the development of the iPhone and App Store, to figure it out, but they finally did it. Big tech found a way to beat music piracy. Now, notice I didn't say stop music piracy. I said beat, because that's what Spotify did. They made a product that was more convenient than illegal sites like LimeWire, and they put a cash register on it. We were all watching the recording artist participate on the wrong side of a bank heist, and then Spotify said, "Y'all are robbing the artist blind, but you're doing it wrong. Hold my beer." This is why artists have gripes with music streaming. These platforms were not meant to benefit them. The platforms and the labels who own the vast catalogs of music, they're the ones that are winning. The artists, unfortunately, they are not. And here's an inconvenient truth. Music piracy may have ended for users, platforms, and labels, but unfortunately, at fractions of a penny per stream, artists are still being robbed. And yes, the polar ice caps are still melting.
It's not until she hauls herself out of the water that I see what state she's in. Her fat reserves hardly protect her now from the cold. And from my own solitary vantage point, the full horror and reason for her predicament becomes clear. First, she started the summer too thin, and unlike her brother, was unable to hunt effectively. Then, the ice disappeared completely this year, even though we're in the heart of the Arctic.
You see what I did there? No, did you see what I did there, though? I said an inconvenient truth, and then after that, like, I kind of, like, use it as a metaphor to say, like, artists are just not doing well, and we knew they weren't doing well in the past, but now they're still not really doing well, and then, like, I showed you the clip, and you know what I mean? Like, the polar bears, like, they're doing worse. Like, you saw that? Like, yeah. Nah, you're right. You're right. That was a pretty sad clip. It's a pretty sad clip. And, I mean, if you really think about it, it's like another inconvenient truth in this is that, well, depending on when that clip was recorded, that polar bear sadly probably didn't make it, really, if we're being honest. And then, to make it worse, like, the narrator, like, kind of stated that the polar bear was a she, which also kind of makes it sad, kind of like in that I Am Legend way, where like Will Smith is like, you know, his dog Sam, and you think Sam is like a dude the whole time, and it's like you find out the dog's full name was Samantha.
It's okay. You're all right. Okay. It's okay. You're all right. You're all right. Samantha, look at me, girl.
I cried a little bit when I saw that. That was crazy. Yeah. Damn. Kind of brought the mood down, didn't I? Damn. Okay, back to the music. In a 2002 interview with the New York Times, the late David Bowie predicted that we would eventually treat music like running water or electricity, and that we would pay for access rather than ownership. Well, it's 2024, and David Bowie was right. We do treat music like running water. But here's the thing. Despite living in the US, where water is a utility and readily available for everyone, water is still being branded, bottled, and sold at insane revenues. According to the International Bottled Water Association, which, wow, didn't know that was a thing, in terms of retail dollars, in 2022, they were at $46 billion in revenue, which is up from $41 billion the previous year. In comparison, according to the Recording Industry Association of America, total recorded music revenues in the US were at $15.9 billion in 2022. So when I was talking about the RIAA's reporting on the $15.9 billion in revenue, one of the things that I forgot to kind of mention was that 84% of that revenue came from streaming, or better yet, that money went to the streaming platforms. So if 84% of the $15.9 billion went to streaming platforms, and streaming platforms are paying artists fractions of a penny and they're not necessarily getting their fair shake, you can kind of see where we still have a problem here. And that's why I go on to say that the industry, the market should actually be bigger than 15.9, because artists are not really going direct to consumer. They're sending all of their fans to streaming platforms. So very important point. I wanted to make sure that I was able to kind of hammer that down. Back to the video. Obviously, we as recording artists are in the wrong business. Rest in power to Prince. I really wish I could have met him, because we could have collaborated and created a bottled water line called Purple Rain Purified Water. And he already had a slogan for it.
What initiation?
Well, for starters, you have to purify yourself from the waters of Lake Minnetonka.
That man was a G, and by a G, I mean genius, and yes, she really did purify herself. But back to the key takeaway here. Despite water being free in the US, bottled water brands are still branding, bottling, and promoting their product. The music industry should be bigger than 15.9 billion. We have to treat our intellectual property like an asset, the same way Aquafina, Dasani, and my favorite, because I'm a little bit bougie, Fiji does. That's the only way we can change society's perception of our art. And I was dead ass about creating a bottled water line for Prince. I mean, I'm V the designer. Yes, I design things. You thought that it was all for show. Would you like to see my concept for Purple Rain purified water? Are you not entertained? I charge people for that. I'm a good person to know. Anyway, back to what hip hop can learn from water. Brand your product. Make it stand out from the faucet. Go direct to consumer. Control your pricing. Control your distribution. Market it. Bottom line, there needs to be a direct to consumer mechanism for your business. If you truly believe in the music and it's worth the time, the effort, and investment that you put into it, why would you outsource your cash register? I'll see you on the next one.